Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I am the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Once again today I am solo. I am getting ready, and this will probably be a short show because I am getting ready to pack the car tonight so we can leave to go to Detroit first thing in the morning. We're going to take 2 days to get to Detroit. We'll drive tomorrow and part of Friday and get into Detroit early Friday so that we can attend a DC Project fundraiser with Amanda Suffolcool and many others. And then Saturday and Sunday is the big goings-on in Detroit. I want to thank Rick Ector for allowing me to be part of that whole deal again this year. I really enjoyed going there last year. I really enjoyed instructing, and I'm looking forward to it again this year. A lot of stuff to get to today, and as always, if you're watching on the Polite Society Podcast Facebook or YouTube channel, go ahead and comment on those live videos. I do get those comments right away. If you're watching anywhere else, go ahead and comment, and sometimes I get those comments, sometimes I don't. If you've got a comment you really want to get on the air, put it up on either YouTube or Facebook at the Polite Society Podcast channel. I get those and I'll get them up and we'll discuss it while I'm live and on the air. Big news today is Massachusetts House Speaker delays HD 4420 until the fall. Is it dead? No, not a chance. But this massive, nasty gun bill, anti-gun bill, I should say, is dead until the fall. Now, let's be realistic. It is the end of July. Fall is 60 days away. Honestly, fall could be as early as 30 days away. You get to the beginning of September, you get through the end of August, the beginning of September, a lot of people start calling that fall. So, but he's delayed it until the fall session for the House in Massachusetts. So I'm not exactly sure when that cranks up. We're going to continue following it. What I honestly think happened was this. A lot of people called their representatives and their senators in Massachusetts, and they told them,
"From my cold, dead hands."
I honestly think that's what happened, is that the public, enough of the public got in touch with their representatives, their senators, and said, if you do this, we will do anything we can to get you out of office. And we're not giving up our firearms, period. You've taken enough already. This is our line in the sand. And there was enough of it that they got scared enough they put it back for a little while, hoping people forget about it. I'm telling you what, Massachusetts representatives and senators, we're not going to forget about it. We're going to fight just as hard, if not harder, in the fall. I've got two friends. I've got Charlie Cook and I've got Carrie Ann with Sisters in Arms in Massachusetts. I guarantee you this fall, if this thing gets reintroduced and they go for it, they will be fighting hard along with everybody from the Gun Owners Action League there in Massachusetts. There's going to be a huge fight this fall if they bring it back up. Let's see here. I got it. This is great. Quote from an old Van Halen song, Hot for Teacher. Jesus Wins, Berta, Michigan says, I don't feel tardy. So, yeah, very cool. Next one we got up here is Hunter Biden. This is off of BearingArms.com. This is a Cam Edwards piece. I'm going to read a little bit from the beginning of it. For weeks now, we've been lectured by the legacy media that there was nothing unseemly about the sweetheart plea deal offered to Hunter Biden that would allow him to avoid prison for falsifying tax returns and being an unlawful user of drugs while in possession of a firearm. But apparently the federal judge who had to sign off on that plea deal didn't get the message. In a federal courtroom in Delaware today, U.S. District Court Judge Mary Ellen Noriega, I think, said she was concerned about the scope of the deal, specifically when it comes to the gun charge Biden is facing. Last month, Biden was charged with possession of a firearm by a person who's a known drug user, and that's a felony. He had a Colt Cobra 38 special for 11 days in October 2018. He agreed to enter a diversion agreement, which means he would not technically plead guilty to the crime. As long as he adhered to the terms of the agreement, the case would be wiped from his record. If not, the deal would be withdrawn. The charge carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. The U.S. District Court judge, who was appointed by Donald Trump, said she was concerned about the language in the diversion agreement and suggested lawyers get back together and discuss it. I think having you guys talk makes more sense, she said. So, does this mean that Biden Jr. is going to go to prison? No, it doesn't. Does it mean he's not going to get the absolute sweetheart deal that he was offered to start with? No, it doesn't mean that either. It just means it's less likely. I really hope, I mean, if it's a weekend in jail, I'd like to see him spend a weekend in jail. I'd like to have him have to do something other than just pay the taxes he already owed, say, oh gosh, golly gee, I'm sorry, it'll never happen again, and the charges to go away. Just because daddy's the president doesn't make you any more above the law, Hunter, than anybody else on the planet. Next story we got up here, Shasta supervisors declare county a Second Amendment fortress in war on guns. This is from the LA Times. After gaining national attention for dumping Dominion voting systems and becoming the largest entity in the United States to resort to hand-counting ballots, the Shasta County Board of Supervisors on Tuesday waded into another issue roiling right-wing America, an unwavering defense of gun rights. By a 4-0 vote, the board approved a resolution declaring the county would use all lawful means at its disposal to support and defend the Second Amendment. Supervisor Patrick Jones, whose day job is managing his family's gun store in Redding, said the largely symbolic measure was necessary because the Second Amendment in California has been treated as a second-class right, with Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom and other lawmakers in Sacramento making frequent efforts at stricter gun control. So, it's a nice gesture, but that's really all this amounts to. Is it doesn't even amount to a Second Amendment sanctuary county. It just says we're going to do everything we can to protect the Second Amendment. And on the county level, honestly, that's not much. So, I mean, good on the Shasta Board of Supervisors for making their opinion known, but that's really, really all they did. Let's see here, where are we at? Let me jump down here to this story. We're going to stay in California for this one. Again, an LA Times story. California is widely considered to have the strongest gun laws in the nation, but it's not only restrictions that put the Golden State at the forefront of our country's conversations around guns. California's reputation is also built on decades of considerable data collecting infrastructure and a willingness to share much of that data with researchers seeking to understand the root causes of gun violence. But as Times Politics reporting intern Owen Tucker Smith wrote this week, that growing field of research is now in jeopardy. For years, the Golden State was uniquely positioned at the forefront of the nation's gun violence research. In 1996, a law backed by the National Rifle Association banned the use of federal funding for such projects. But that changed in 2019 when Congress approved $25 million annually for the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention and the National Institutes of Health to study gun violence, and research expanded dramatically. House Republicans now have set their sights on the federal allotment as they square off with Democrats over appropriations bills. aiming to quash any and all spending on gun violence research. At the same time, gun rights activists in California are challenging the state's data sharing laws, which had enabled so much research during the federal ban. The LA Times is freaking out that their utopia may go away. Look, how much gun violence is going on in the city of San Francisco? How much gun violence is going on in LA County, specifically the city of Los Angeles, and North Hollywood, and a lot of the places down there. If you want to research what's going on, try locking up some criminals, keeping them locked up, and then watch your gun violence rates go down. Or maybe here's an odd thought: allowing your regular citizenry to defend themselves, so when the door gets broken in, so that the intruder who intends on robbing and raping gets shot and can't rob and rape anymore because he's permanently disfigured or worse. Again, crime rates are going to fall. It's kind of hard to break down a door when you have to use other methods to urinate or defecate. So, let's see here. John Petrolino checking in. Hey, John. CNT Arms and Designs checking in. Hey, bud. And, of course, Jesus Wins / Berta, Michigan had already checked in. So, and I got that one on the screen. Scroll back up here, and this one is off of FoxNews.com. We didn't have time to get to this one yesterday, but it's still a good story. Republicans and gun rights activists say the Biden administration unlawfully handed out federal funds to states that did not qualify under a program intended to promote so-called red flag laws. In 2022, Congress passed and President Biden signed the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act in response to the mass shootings in Buffalo, New York, and Uvalde, Texas, that left dozens dead. The law incentivizes states to pass extreme risk protection laws, also called red flag laws, that allow members of the public and law enforcement to petition courts for a civil order to temporarily suspend a person's access to firearms for fear that that person might do violence. After gun rights activists raised Second Amendment concerns, Congress included requirements that the states applying for federal grants to implement red flag laws include certain due process protections. The Department of Justice appears to have weaponized the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act to illegally fund ineligible red flag laws and bribe pro-gun states into passing gun confiscation laws, the lawmakers wrote. Since the passage of no states have revised their statutes to comply with due process requirements imposed by the 117th Congress. Nevertheless, the Bureau of Justice Programs has funded every state that applied with a red flag gun confiscation law on the books without enforcing Congress due process requirements. The federal government should have no part in funding state-level gun confiscation programs which violate the due process of gun owners. Again, that's a story off Fox News. So what's going on here is states like California and New Jersey are applying to the federal government to get some of this cash cow money, but they aren't changing their red flag laws to allow the person to be at the hearing where their guns are taken away. They're not allowing this person to have a lawyer if they are at these hearings. They've done nothing to further due process in their states, and yet guess what? The Justice Department is going ahead and shipping them money anyway. Big shock there. I'm hoping the states have to return the money. Let me get this one in from C&T. Coop says the federal government doesn't care about your rights. They want to get the guns any way they can. Well, that's certainly true of the Biden administration. And going back to the last story, he also said, all the research is going to show is what we already know. Most of the violence is committed by very small groups and in very small areas of inner cities. Maybe, Coop. Remember that it is the state of California, the very left-leaning state of California, that is funding these studies. And by and large, a study will prove whatever the person who pays for that study wants it to prove. And these are social scientists, not real scientists. And unfortunately, the way a lot of real scientists are going, they're turning into social scientists anyway. I simply look at things like climate change, and whoever's paying for the study, they get the result they want. Increasingly, a left-leaning government is paying for the study, so they're getting left-leaning results. So, trust the science? Yeah, no. I trust this either truly independent science, or I trust science that is paid for by a neutral party. Do I trust any science that comes from the government? Very, very darn little of it. One more from C&T, and then I'll get on to the final story for today. It's easy for the Fed just to throw money at the states. They can take money from us, or they just print more money. Yeah, have you noticed inflation lately? That's exactly what they're doing. They're printing more money, therefore more money in circulation means the money is worth less, which means you got to pay more for what you want. I like this one. Bob Main checking in. Bob, I haven't heard from you in a coon's age, man. Pro-gun groups should pay for the study so they get what they want. Or, I don't know, they could just... we've already got people like Dr. John Lott, Bob, who has done tons and tons of research, by the way, a lot of it on his own dime, into guns and done it from a sociology standpoint. And time again, he's proved that restrictive gun rights hurt the general population and only help the criminals. And I would not be opposed to the NRA funding research. I would not be opposed to the SAF, Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America, any large organization funding some research that really wouldn't bother me that much. But then again, we've already got research on our side in the form of John Lott's research and more. And let's not forget, we are winning. We are winning, especially with the Supreme Court in the setup, in the people that are there right now. Unless it's changed to where they have 13, 18, 73 people on the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court we have right now is going to keep, my honest belief is going to keep pushing back against regulations and laws that were unconstitutional to start with, but never made it to the Supreme Court to get challenged, mostly because we really haven't had a Supreme Court on our side until now. So I think honestly that's because I just looked over and I'm going to get to your Roderick. I just seen your comment. I'll get to that in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and skip this last story I had left over from yesterday, but it's a story about Massachusetts. And it's honestly old news today because the bill this was written about no longer is being considered until the fall so we get a break of a month. So let me get this one up from Roderick here. Red flag laws are addressed in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. You know, I absolutely, totally agree with that, Roderick, and I want to share something from my personal experience. This past February, the legislature, a legislator, my state legislator, my state rep from my home district here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, snuck in a bill that was supposed to go to committee on Monday. She snuck it in on Friday, so I didn't find out about it until Sunday, and I went up that Monday and testified before this committee. And this is a red flag law that she proposed. And one of the big things about it is we don't have to pay for this. The federal government will pay for this. And in that red flag law, there was absolutely no due process. There was a secret. The accuser made the accusation. Then the county attorney would take it to a judge without notifying, without the person being there. It was done in legal terms what's called in absentia. Only one person is there. It was the exact wording of the bill. And in absentia, by the way, was in that bill. I counted 6 times. And thankfully that bill absolutely died a horrific, awful death in committee. And it was wonderful to see my representative get all frustrated and leave the committee room. So let me look over here. Get one more in from Coop here. Coop says, what we are seeing nationally right now where the mob can just vote the minorities' rights away is why the founders warned us about democracy. And a little bit of a civics lesson here. We are not a democracy, and Coop knows this, and that's part of what it was in his comment. We're not a democracy. We're a republic. The people we send to Washington, D.C., unfortunately, we do spend some people to Washington, D.C. as well, but the people we send to Washington, D.C. are supposed to protect our rights. They don't have a very good track record at doing that. My goal here with the show and with Polite Society Podcast, my goal is to get everybody more active politically and to get people more active with the SAF and through the SAF more active in the courts. And I think, again, we're winning. We're winning. And I think, honestly, we're going to win in the elections, too. The next thing we need to do is to get real election reform in some of the blue states. States like Michigan, states like California, states like Oregon and Washington. I would love to see, and I don't know that I'm going to end early because I've only got 6 minutes left. I may end early still, but what I would remember back when Iraq was going to hold its very first public elections after they got liberated, after Hussein was gone. I remember news reports that people went to go vote, and they had to, when they went in to vote, they stuck their finger in indelible ink. It would wash off, but it was going to take a week or so. They stuck their finger in indelible ink so that they could not vote and then go to another polling site and vote again. Boy, would I love to see that here. I'd love to see when it comes time to count the vote that nothing happens like happened in Wisconsin, where everything goes behind closed doors and they stick boards up over the windows. Let's have free and open and honest elections. That's what America is supposed to be about. All right, I am going to shut this down, folks. I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you for commenting. Podcast listeners, thank you for listening. There is going to be no show tomorrow. There is going to be no show, no scheduled show on Friday. If I'm able to, I'll get some stuff Friday night after we get out of the DC Project fundraiser. I will do my darndest, and maybe during the day on Saturday when I'm not actively instructing, I can sneak outside. I can grab somebody that's about to go in or somebody that has just come out, and I can interview some of the ladies that have gone through this. I can interview some of the instructors that are there. And Saturday night, I know for sure, because I've already got the studio packed. It's right out there in the living room, and it's ready to get loaded in the car. Saturday night from my hotel room, there will be a broadcast with many of the people that are attending as instructors. There will be a broadcast Saturday night. I cannot guarantee a time, but I guarantee it's going to happen. Oh, let me get this one up. I love this comment. Coop says, knowing the left in this country, they would cut that finger off to go vote again. Yeah, they would. Yeah, they would. All right, that's it, everybody. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you next time.